The first light of dawn crept slowly across the wide prairie, painting the horizon in pale streaks of gold and pink. A cool hush lingered in the air, broken only by the restless clucking of hens inside the wooden coop that stood near the barn. The ranch was usually still at this hour, horses grazing quietly, the wind carrying faint whispers through the tall grass. But today something was different. The cowboy knew it before he even stepped outside. Ethan McGraw, owner of the spread, had a habit of waking early. He liked to feel the world before it grew noisy with the business of men. Boots laced, hat pulled down, he pushed open the cabin door and squinted into the growing light. His eyes swept the yard, searching the shadows. A faint movement near the chicken coop caught his attention. He stilled, his hand instinctively brushing against the grip of his revolver. There, bent low and quick, was a figure. Not a fox, not a coyote, but a human form. Small, slight, and ragged, slipping a hand into the nest boxes and pulling out fresh-laid eggs. She moved fast, clutching them as if they were gold. The cowboy's eyes narrowed. "Hey!" His voice rang across the quiet, deep and steady, carrying a weight that made the hens squawk louder. The figure froze. For a heartbeat, the dawn seemed to stop. Slowly, she turned her head. A young woman, no more than her early 20s, stood revealed in the pale light. Her dark hair was tangled, her dress patched and threadbare. The hem torn from too many miles walked, bare feet dug into the dirt as if ready to sprint. In her hands, cradled like treasure, were a half-dozen eggs. Her eyes met his, wide and fierce, not the gaze of a thief caught in shame, but of someone cornered with nowhere left to run. She clutched the eggs tighter to her chest, jaw set, breathing sharp. Ethan didn't reach for his gun. He didn't shout or charge. He simply stood, his shadow long in the new light, studying her. She was rail-thin, exhaustion in every line of her face, but there was steel in her stare. Hunger had driven her here, but pride kept her from dropping the stolen food. "Those hens don't lay for free," he said finally, his tone even. The girl's lips trembled, though her voice came out steady. "Then shoot me if you're going to. But I'm not leaving empty-handed." The morning air thickened between them. The eggs in her arms shook slightly, not from weakness but from the raw edge of defiance. Ethan tilted his head, eyes narrowing further. This wasn't a common thief. This was someone fighting to stay alive. And that changed everything. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. The stillness of the prairie wrapped around them, broken only by the restless shuffle of hooves from his bay horse tied nearby. The young woman's chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. Every muscle coiled as if waiting for him to lunge, to strike, or to drag her away in shame, but instead of anger. The cowboy's lips curved slightly beneath the brim of his hat. Not into a smile exactly, more a quiet recognition, like a man who had seen this story play out before. His hand never once moved toward the revolver at his side. Instead, he hooked his thumbs into his belt, steady as the dawn itself. "If you're set on stealing," he said, his voice low and measured, "best you take all you can carry. Leaving with half a dozen eggs won't get you far." The girl blinked, stunned. She glanced down at the eggs in her arms, then back at him, confusion flickering in her eyes. For the first time since he'd caught her, her grip faltered. What do you mean?" she asked, her voice edged with suspicion. Ethan stepped closer, the crunch of his boots slow and deliberate on the dirt. He gestured to the coop. "There's more in there, go on. If you're gonna rob me, don't do it halfway." Her brow furrowed. This wasn't how lawmen or ranchers behaved. Usually, folks shouted, threatened, maybe even struck a girl down for daring to trespass. Her shoulders tensed as though expecting a trap, but his face gave nothing away. It was calm, unreadable, the kind of stillness that didn't need to prove itself. "Why?" she demanded, her voice breaking with both fear and anger. "Why would you let me?" His eyes lingered on her thin arms, the hollowness in her cheeks, the threadbare patches on her dress. Ethan had known hunger once, deep, bone-gnawing hunger, and he recognized it now. "Because I don't aim a gun at someone starving," he replied simply. Her breath hitched, though she masked it quickly with a scowl. The eggs rattled faintly in her trembling hands. "Don't pity me," she snapped, though the fire in her voice cracked under the weight of exhaustion. Ethan shrugged, unbothered. "Not pity, just truth." He let the words hang in the morning air, heavy and solid. The girl swallowed hard, caught between pride and need. Something in his stillness unnerved her more than if he'd raised his gun. Men who didn't lash out were harder to read, harder to fight. She shifted her bare feet in the dirt, unsure if she should run, stay, or do the unthinkable. Believe him. Ethan tilted his head toward the open prairie beyond the ranch. But if you're running like this, you won't last long out there. Hunger will catch you before any bullet does. Her eyes narrowed. So what then? You planning to turn me in? The cowboy's gaze sharpened just slightly, steady as stone. No, he said. I'm planning to ask you something first. And though she didn't know it yet, that question would change the course of her life. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the dusty yard. The girl's hands tightened around the eggs, her knuckles pale against the fragile shells. Ethan studied her carefully, noting the tremble in her shoulders, the wary flick of her eyes to the horizon, as though escape might still be an option. You got two choices, he said finally, his voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. Work for me, earn your keep, and eat something that's more than scraps, or keep stealing and the road'll chew you up. She bristled, hissing between clenched teeth. She began, but the words caught. Her pride warred with her stomach, and for a moment, the silence between them was more threatening than any gun. Ethan's eyes softened slightly, just enough to show understanding without weakening his stance. I won't lie. Life out here is hard. Work's harder. But at least you won't have to wake every morning wondering if you'll find anything to eat. Her gaze dropped to the eggs, then to his boots, dusted from morning chores. The offer was strange, too strange to be trusted. But the honesty in his voice, the steadiness in his posture, hinted that this man didn't bluff lightly. What if I say no? She asked finally, a tremor in her voice betraying the bravado she tried to project. Then you'll walk off hungry, he replied simply. And I won't stop you. But understand this, out there you're on your own. Here you got a chance. Your choice. The wind kicked up, ruffling the loose strands of her dark hair, and she shivered. Fear and hunger tangled together, knotting in her chest. She looked at him, the rough lines of his face, the quiet command in his stance, and then at the eggs still trembling in her arms. Slowly, she stepped closer, a hesitant defiance in her eyes. And the other thing? She asked, a faint whisper, almost lost beneath the soft clatter of wind-blown dirt. Ethan's lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile. The other thing? You said, or wear white beside you forever, she murmured, her voice barely audible. Her cheeks flushed, embarrassment and disbelief warring with the cautious hope stirring inside her. Ethan nodded, tipping his hat slightly. That's right. You can choose to stay here, to work, learn, and someday, maybe something more. But only if you're willing to try. She stared at him, her heart pounding in a mix of fear, pride, and curiosity. The eggs wobbled in her hands as she struggled to reconcile the choice before her. She could take the path she knew, desperation, thievery, solitude, or step into something uncertain, with a man who held both opportunity and challenge in his quiet gaze. After a long pause, her shoulders relaxed fractionally. The fire of her defiance dimmed just enough for reason to creep in. With a careful breath, she set the eggs down, straightened her posture, and looked him in the eye. I'll work, she said, voice firmer than she felt. Ethan nodded, a weight lifting subtly in his shoulders, though his face betrayed nothing of the relief. Good, let's get started. First lesson, you respect the land, the animals, and yourself. Everything else comes after. For the first time that morning, the girl felt the stirrings of hope. The choice had been made, the path forward uncertain but real. The next morning, the yard was alive with activity. Sunlight spilled over the corrals, glinting on the dew-soaked grass, and the scent of hay mingled with the faint tang of manure. The girl, still in her faded dress, stood beside Ethan, who handed her a broom. First things first, he said, his voice calm but firm. You learn the rhythm of the land. Respect what it gives, and it'll sustain you. Ignore it, and it'll bite back faster than any stranger. She frowned, hesitant. Even if I make mistakes? Especially if you make mistakes, he replied. Mistakes teach more than success ever will. You'll slip, break something, spill feed, but you'll learn. That's life out here. She nodded, her small hands gripping the broom as she swept the barn aisle, dust rising in little clouds around her. Ethan watched from the edge, arms crossed as the horses shifted in their stalls. their ears twitching at every sound. After a while, he approached, offering a basket filled with eggs. "Now you'll carry these to the kitchen. Steady hands, careful steps. Don't drop them." Her first attempt was shaky. One egg teetered dangerously on the edge of the basket, and she caught it just in time. Ethan's eyes flicked to hers, measuring the blend of fear and determination in her gaze. "Good. Steady, patient, and always aware of your surroundings. That's how you survive out here." Hours passed with chores that seemed endless, filling water troughs, repairing fences, tending the animals. Each task was a lesson wrapped in labor, and she felt muscles protest in ways they hadn't before. Yet beneath the soreness, something else stirred, a quiet pride in her ability to accomplish something tangible, something real. During a brief pause, she sat on a fence rail, brushing the sweat from her brow. Ethan joined her, leaning on the post. "You're doing well," he said, voice low. Most would have given up by now, run off, or broken something beyond repair. But not you. She looked at him, eyes wide. Why help me like this? I tried to steal from you yesterday." Ethan's jaw tightened, though his expression remained neutral. "Because even those who take need a chance to give back. Because it's better to teach than to punish. And because some people, some kids, just need someone to believe they're worth it." The girl's heart tightened, unfamiliar warmth curling in her chest. She nodded slowly, taking in the weight of his words as the sun moved higher. By evening, she had carried water, gathered eggs, and even helped feed the chickens without breaking a single one. Ethan stood back, arms folded, letting her work, yet always within reach if she faltered. Her confidence, though fledgling, grew with each chore completed. As they closed the barn doors, Ethan rested a hand briefly on her shoulder. "Tomorrow, more lessons. Harder work. But by morning, you'll see that the land rewards those who respect it. You'll start to understand what it means to belong somewhere, and not just anywhere. Here." The girl looked at him, a flicker of determination lighting her tired eyes. The choice she had made was already shaping her world, lesson by lesson, day by day as the sun sank behind the rolling hills, painting the sky in strokes of gold and crimson. The next morning, the air smelled of damp earth and fresh hay. The girl rose before dawn, rubbing the sleep from her eyes as she watched Ethan saddle the horses. Today, he had promised, she would ride out to check the far paddocks and bring back the lost goats from the hill. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the stirrups, the memory of yesterday's chores still fresh in her muscles. Ethan stood behind her, calm and steady as always. "Remember," he said quietly, "the animals respond to confidence. Hesitation makes them nervous. Speak to them, guide them, but don't force them. You'll learn what works with respect, not with fear." She nodded, gripping the reins tightly, her knuckles pale. The bay horse beneath her shifted, snorting and pawing at the dirt, sensing her nervousness. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on its shoulder. "Easy, it's okay. You've got this." As they rode out across the rolling hills, the girl began to understand the rhythm of the land. The sun warmed her face, and the wind lifted strands of dark hair that had fallen from her braid. She guided the horse along narrow paths, her eyes scanning for movement among the tall grass. Slowly, confidence replaced hesitation. They found the goats tangled in a thicket, their bleats loud against the quiet morning. She dismounted carefully, crouching low to untangle the stubborn animals. Ethan stayed close, offering gentle guidance, but he let her handle the task. Every successful maneuver bolstered her self-assurance. By the time they returned to the ranch, the girl had learned not just how to manage animals, but how to read their signals, to anticipate the unexpected. Her hands were rough, her arms sore, but pride glimmered in her eyes. Ethan glanced at her with approval, a rare, soft smile breaking his usually stern features. "You're learning faster than most. Not just the work, but the responsibility that comes with it. That's what matters." She looked down, adjusting her grip on the reins. I didn't think I could do it. I was scared I'd ruin everything." "You were scared," he said evenly, "and you didn't quit. That's the difference. Everyone has fear, but not everyone faces it. Today you faced yours. Tomorrow you'll face more, and you'll handle it even better." The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the paddocks. The girl, covered in sweat and streaked with dirt, felt a new sense of belonging settle over her. For the first time, she understood that this was not a place of judgment, but of opportunity. Each bead of sweat, each careful action had built trust, not only between her and the animals, but between her and Ethan. By nightfall, she sat beside the fire, cleaning the tools and brushing the horses' coats. Ethan handed her a piece of bread, and for the first time in a long while, she ate without fear. The day had been hard, exhausting, but the lessons had been invaluable. She met Ethan's gaze, quiet gratitude reflected in her eyes. "Thank you for giving me a chance," she whispered. Ethan's nod was all the acknowledgement she needed. Trust had been earned in sweat and soil, and she felt its weight like a shield, solid, enduring, and entirely her own. The following weeks brought a rhythm to their days that neither had anticipated. The girl rose early to help with the chores, her confidence growing as she mastered feeding the livestock, mending fences, and tending the garden. Ethan, ever watchful, offered guidance but allowed her the space to make decisions, to learn the consequences of her choices. Each day her skills grew sharper, and with them, a quiet pride that glimmered in her eyes. One morning, as the sun broke over the horizon, painting the prairie in soft golds and pinks, Ethan approached her with a broad smile. "Today we start on the barn repairs," he said, pointing to the weathered structure that had seen better days. "You ready?" She nodded eagerly, determination firm in her gaze. Her hands, now calloused but steady, gripped the tools with ease. Together they worked side by side, hammering, measuring, and lifting beams. The hours passed quickly, filled with shared effort and unspoken understanding. Every strike of the hammer, every piece of timber set in place, built more than a barn. It built a bond rooted in respect and trust. By midday, the barn stood proud, a testament to their hard work and cooperation. They paused, wiping sweat from their brows, sharing a rare moment of quiet satisfaction. Ethan looked at her, admiration evident beneath the dust and grime. "You've come a long way," he said. "Not just in skill, but in who you are. You've proven yourself capable, strong, and reliable." She blushed slightly, looking down at her hands. I never thought I could do all this. I used to run from everything that scared me. And now?" Ethan asked, tilting his head with a knowing smile. "Now, I can face it. I can handle it," she replied, a small spark of confidence lighting her face. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, the ranch became more than just a place to work. It became home. The animals responded to her touch. The land yielded to her care. And Ethan's presence was a steady reassurance, a constant reminder that she had a place in this world. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, warm shadows across the prairie, Ethan led her to the edge of the field. He handed her a simple white dress, folded neatly. "This is for you," he said softly. "If you choose, one day you can wear it. Not as a girl who steals, not as someone who hides, but as someone who belongs." Her eyes widened, emotion catching in her throat. She held the dress carefully, almost reverently, as though it represented the life she had fought to claim. Ethan's hand rested lightly on her shoulder. "The choice is yours. Work, learn, grow, or stand beside me, a partner in everything this life offers. Either way, you're no longer alone." Tears pricked her eyes, but they were different now. Tears of hope, of possibility, of a future forged by courage and trust. She looked up at Ethan, her gaze steady and filled with resolve. I choose both," she whispered. He nodded, a rare smile breaking across his rugged features. Together they turned toward the ranch, toward the horizon, toward a life built not on fear or theft, but on trust, hard work, and the promise of something brighter. The sun set behind them, painting the sky in gold and crimson, as two figures walked side by side, one who had once feared the world, and one who had shown her that with guidance, patience, and courage, a new beginning was always possible.